Moving slowly away from the mainstream now. This is what I wanted to talk about next. 5-HTP. I mentioned earlier I had spent a year on Zoloft, Serotonin Selective Uptake Inhibitor, SSRI. Yeah. I eventually got off that and I clunked along for several years and then found reference to this 5-HTP. I'm going to explain what it is and how it works in more detail later. 5-HTP is naturally occurring. I like that about it. It does not have side effects. Whereas the SSRIs make more efficient use of the serotonin you do have, 5-HTP boosts your serotonin. And I'll explain how that happens. I'll just explain first where this comes from. Yeah, alright, several things at once. It's derived from a plant, Griffonia Simplicifolia. Simplicifolia. Grows in Africa, in Ghana and parts of western Nigeria. It's a legume. It produces beans, and the beans contain this 5-HTP. I'll put up some illustrations. I've got two of these growing. They're threatening to take over. Let me see. Yeah, perhaps... right, I'll put some illustrations up later. The natives harvest these. They're a strange sort of plant. They're not a tree, they're not a shrub. They don't have a trunk, they don't grow branches. They grow lianas, which scramble up in amongst other trees. And they put these pods on. Being legumes, they put these pods on. I hope to find some illustrations of green ones on the World Wide Web. I don't have any photographs. This is one that's dry. That does have seeds in it. I've got a couple of others here that are dry and I'm not quite sure. They're very hard. Crack these open. What happens is as they dry out, they usually crack and they'll fling their seeds far and wide. Now this one, I've taken it apart, but you can see there, you might be able to see there that this one has one seed up in that corner. When they're dry, they're about the size and shape of a 5-cent piece. When they're green, you can eat them green. They taste a bit like garden peas, only not quite as appetising. When they're dry, I soak them for a day or two in water so I can chew them up. Let me see, I should mention about dosages. No, before that, I'll talk a bit more about serotonin and 5-HTP. Serotonin, as I'll explain later, is instrumental in activating the smooth muscle in your digestive system. 90% or so of the serotonin in your body is in your digestive system. There's only about 10% in your central nervous system, and that's what affects your mood. This is how you get depressed if there's a deficiency of it. I'm rambling all over the place. But anyway, these things, there are a lot of other plants that produce serotonin, but serotonin won't cross the blood-brain barrier. Serotonin will speed up the action of your digestive system, but it won't. Taking serotonin won't help your mood at all. Yeah, a lot of plants, a few at least, produce serotonin, and they're tricky. What they do is an animal, a herbivore, a grazing animal, comes along and chomps up the plant, swallows a few seeds. Some of the ones that get digested release serotonin, and that speeds up the process. Some of the seed, the hard seed, goes right through, and as you can imagine, in the course of natural processes, that's going to get dumped out the rear end, where the seeds are sitting there in a nice heap of animal droppings, which is a perfect seed bed for them to germinate in. So that's how most of them work, but these Griffonia seeds, they're a little bit more sneaky. They do the same thing, but they contain this 5-HTP, and it can cross the blood-brain barrier and affect the animal's mood. And so, whereas normally the ones that only make serotonin, the animal wanders somewhere else and deposits its mixture of droppings and seeds, but probably doesn't come back. But this stuff is a bit more crafty. It will give the animal a slight euphoric feeling, so that after a few days, I imagine it sort of gets the feeling, I'd like to go back and eat a few more of those beans. Yeah. So, interesting story. I knew this would go off track. I've got too many things to think about at once. 5-HTP. These, as I said, grow in Ghana and parts of Nigeria. The natives harvest them, for want of a better word. They're actually being a bit destructive about it. That's another story. They collect the beans. I gather those are normally sent to Germany, where the 5-HTP is extracted, and then that goes to various other places around the world where it's put into capsules and sold to people like me. So it might be time to... Got it. Might be time to talk more about this. Let me see. Look, you can get these in various dosages. Typically 50 milligram, 100 milligram. These are 200 milligram ones. I got sick of reordering, so I open up the capsules and divide these up. I'm taking 50 milligrams a day, roughly. So I'll open that and divide it into 3 or 4 separate doses at one a day. 200 milligrams is considered, this is what I have to give you a warning about, and this gets a bit graphic and I'd rather not do it if I didn't have to, but I do have to issue you a warning. 200 milligrams a day is considered a maximal dose for a big adult, and you'll realise why shortly. What had happened? I found out about this the hard way. This happened to me one weekend. I had driven to another town, 2.5 hours drive away, to referee a swim meet and then drive back home again. That induces quite a bit of stress, and of course the body's reaction to stress is to slow down non-essential functions, one of which is digestion. So I was not at all surprised to find that this is one of the symptoms, how you can check how your depression is running, if you've got depression. It's not just your mood, because depression is associated with a deficiency of serotonin in the brain, amongst other neurotransmitters. The other thing that I remembered I had to tell you about was another symptom, because serotonin has to do with keeping your digestive system working, is if you've got sluggish digestion and you're getting bloated, that along with the low mood could indicate to you that you're a bit low on serotonin. So anyway, that's what had happened to me, and that's not unusual. So I thought I'll increase the dose from 50 milligrams to 100 and get things moving again. Well, it did. And a couple of days later, I developed diarrhea. And a couple of days after that, it developed into dysentery. And fortunately, I'd had forewarning of this. You see, drongos, pleasure seekers, this is how I come to have these, will consume a handful of beans or several capsules at once in the hope of inducing a serotonin high. And that's risky. Because, as I said, and found out in a very practical way myself, there have been fatalities from this. I don't know whether they get a high or not. I did not. But they land in the emergency department of the hospital with a severe case of dysentery, and the doctors can't save them. There have been fatalities. So that's the warning I have to give you about this if you resort to it. There have been fatalities. One of the symptoms, apart from the dysentery, is they'll listen to your abdomen, and there's continual gurgling going on in there. That's a good indication of what's happening. So whether or not you experience a high from it is one thing, but I could be pretty sure that it would be a gruesome way to die. So there's your warning. If you've got a teenager that you're giving this to, I suggest that a responsible adult take charge of this to make sure that they're getting just the right dose and don't do anything silly. If they think that more is going to be better, just the right dose is what you want. Griffonia, 5-HTP. Okay, we'll see if I've got it all. Here's another diagram from the World Wide Web. It's part of this talk about 5-HTP. 5-HTP normally is derived from tryptophan. Tryptophan is an amino acid which is one of the building blocks of protein. And it when you digest this, there are processes that can occur. You can see there are a whole lot of other processes available, but we want to look down this one. In this case, tryptophan is converted, once it's available in your digestive system, is converted to 5-HTP in your digestive system, and in your digestive system it's converted to serotonin, which 90% of the serotonin in your body, 90-odd%, is actually in your digestive system. It is what is required to promote operation of the smooth muscle, which is responsible for where are we? It works by peristalsis. It's this rhythmic contraction that keeps the material moving. Now, the other 10% or less, is working in your central nervous system. And how it gets there is that the 5-HTP, you see serotonin, let's backtrack. If you're depressed and it's caused by serotonin deficiency, it's no use taking serotonin because it will not cross the blood-brain barrier. If you want to get it into your central nervous system, you've got to get it at this stage. 5-HTP will cross the blood-brain barrier, where it's converted into serotonin in your central nervous system. That is the key. This is the trick that is central to this kind of treatment. If you want to take 5-HTP to alter your mood, this is what you're doing. Serotonin. So now this here, this is what's happening in the central nervous system. Forget about the digestive system. Serotonin affects your mood, mostly during the daytime. This goes further because at night, the process which is occurring in your central nervous system is to convert what serotonin there is to melatonin, which is the sleep hormone. Absolutely vital. So it's easy to realise that if you're low in serotonin in your central nervous system, there won't be enough of it to create sufficient melatonin to give you a good night's sleep. And this is how, after you've had a poor night's sleep, you wake up feeling worse, you're low on serotonin, your mood is low, you've had poor sleep, and so through the day you drag your feet around. Once again, not enough melatonin to give you a good night's sleep. And this tends to spiral around in ever tightening circles until you nosedive into a crisis. You don't want that. And so, yeah, back to it. That's why I'm talking about this 5-HTP that I take now. As I explain elsewhere when I'm talking about synaptic nerve signal transmission, the mainstream treatment is to work directly in the central nervous system by administering these selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors. I talk about that elsewhere. But if you want to, if you are interested, and it takes a little bit of caution, as I'll advise about, you can take this. I scavenged this image from the World Wide Web. Let's see, this illustrates how nerve signals are transmitted from one neuron to the next. And this here is a blow up of a tiny little connector here, which is called a synapse or synapse. This is how they work. A nerve signal travelling down one nerve will cause these vesicles, which hold neurotransmitters, to migrate to the surface, where they release the neurotransmitter into this synaptic cleft, which is normally dormant. It insulates between one nerve and the next. When these are released into here, they can travel across here and to be absorbed onto the receptors in the postsynaptic part of the next neuron. Now, this is what normally happens. You've usually got enough neurotransmitter. Serotonin, we're talking about serotonin here, it's not the only one. You've normally got enough. What happens if you are depressed, if you're suffering depression that's caused by serotonin deficiency, you don't have enough of these, and so the signal getting across here tends to be weak and it can fail. Now, if you take 5-HTP, what that will tend to do is to make sure you've got enough enough serotonin neurotransmitter. The conventional medical treatments, what they call SSRIs, selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, what little serotonin you do have gets into this cleft, and the reuptake inhibitor slows down the rate at which the serotonin is retrieved from this space and closes down the transmission. So that's how those work. They keep the serotonin in here for longer, so that there's a better chance of signal transmission. Here is one alternative I sometimes resort to. I got the information out of this book by Donna, her energy medicine book. And it covers a whole lot of topics. One of them is is about the meridian system that's used in acupuncture. And one of those, there's about a dozen primary meridians and a few others. And it was from this that I got the basic information for something I developed. In here, here's a, oops, I probably should have photographed this, but it won't matter. In here is a sketch of the rough way the Triple-Energiser Meridian runs. It runs from, well, depending which way you want to trace from. It runs from, if you find your temple, and right at the front there's a little notch just above the outside corner of your eyebrow there, and that's one end of it. It runs from there backwards over the top of the ears, down the back of the neck, across the shoulder, down the arm, and ends at a point on the, well, we call it the ring finger, the fourth finger. To find the exact positions of these points, I got this book. It's got all the fine details of all the meridians, and if I look where the Triple-Energiser Meridian is, well, there's a whole lot of text, but if you look, there's an image of a hand there, and it details where the Triple-Energiser Meridian ends. The lighting's not great, but it's on the outside edge of the ring finger, about halfway along the nail bed. So if I try to find it there, doing this at the same time, it's about, I've missed it slightly. You can find these just by intending to. It's right about there. That usually makes me go, oh, if I hit the right spot. Now, what I wanted to show you was, while I think of it, oh look, there's sort of support for this. You might see, in order to soothe an anxious infant, a mother will automatically trace from that point there at the front of the temple over the ear and down the back of the neck. That'll quieten them down. And a mother will do that without even thinking about it. For you to use this, I use this whenever I feel an anxiety attack coming on. And that's usually sometime deep during the night. I'll wake up and I'll think, why am I awake? And within a minute I know why. My heart's racing and I'm blacking out. It's because the Triple-Energiser Meridian has gone into hyperdrive. Something's frightened me, and that's what's happened. Okay, now it's time to explain the Triple-Energiser Meridian. At its simplest is basically your defense system. But when it goes into hyperdrive, it causes, it's the cause of anxiety, emotionally, and it's the cause, and it's implicated in allergic reactions. It's perceived some threat and gone into hyperdrive. Dragged everything from all the rest of you, and you bunker down deep inside yourself. Yeah, you'd know the typical panic reaction. So, to dampen this down, what I do, I'm by myself. Now you've got a Triple-Energiser Meridian both sides, obviously. Both sides. And what I devised was a method of linking these up so they go around in an infinite loop. It's a bit awkward. So if I go from here to there, and the same on the other side, it's a bit awkward. That's how I apply it. I'm going to try to demonstrate this. I'm going to... Anyone can do that. What I do is well, I did Reiki long ago, and I'm supposed to have it, and I don't know what went wrong, but I've got something like that back. So if I get myself charged, see if I can do this while standing in front of a video camera. Right. Takes a little while. It's building up. You see, normally that'll fill up very quickly. But at night, when an anxiety attack is threatening, I can lay there for something like 20 minutes going, oh, before something kicks in. Because in anxiety, your heart centre clams shut and you've got no flow. So it takes a while, but it does work, in my experience. Worth a try. I would imagine that one person can do this for another by placing the outsides of their ring fingers on the other person's, the front of the temple spot there. To do that, you do it same side, because my right is their left and so on. I've never done this, but could be worth a try. I imagine children could do this for each other quite well. Children have these gifts without knowing it. But you wouldn't do it in the open at school. The teachers would go, oh, what are you doing? No contact, remember? So keep it quiet. Tips and tricks.